in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. We have 4 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention. All right. Fiscal year 11 update on the budget. That's the current year budget. Now?
Yes, we're at the 11-month point, running the turn, heading for home.
That's very cute.
And, one comment I'd make here is, once we pass the budget, we all breathe a sigh of relief because we finished that process. But at the conclusion of that process, there's a lot of hard work that's done by the principals primarily to live within the confines of the very tough budgets that they've been given. And I think I'm all appreciative of the hard work that the principals do in maintaining their budgets, given the fact that they have a lot of problems with the reductions that they've had in recent years. Same thing with personnel. We enter into a year with a certain personnel complement, and by and large, we have to live with it. So a lot of hard work takes place as the year goes on. Having said that, we're moving towards closing the fiscal year in another month and a half. I remind the committee that our FY12 budget does call for the very first time, funds from the present year to be carried over and used to reduce next year's budget in the amount of $70,000. I put in the cover memo the MGL reference to how we can do that and why it's permitted. So we are identifying dollars now to all of the individual line accounts in order to come up with that $70,000. I think we'll also be able to permit a modest amount of pre-purchasing for the school expense budgets next year. In fact, we've already gone out to bid, and we are going to order copy paper for all 5 schools out of this year's budget, which gives them a break on next year's budget, so they don't have to do that. So that's some good news. It's been a good year financially, and I think we'll come in the black, thanks to the hard work of a lot of people, including the business office.
Thanks, Carl. Any questions? Mel?
Carl, on the payroll page, I understand why the substitute budget is so far overspent because we had significant need for substitutes this year. There are 3 categories. I'm not looking for deep details here, but there's a 9,000 in general paras, 29,000 custodian, 24 special education. Are there any specific, like, did we not hire a para that we thought we needed, or is that? I mean, I know we're at the beginning of the year, you're somewhat playing a guessing game as to how many personnel we're going to need for a certain situation. But just if there's any color you could add.
Oh, I'd be happy to. Thank you for that question. Yes, it's true. The general para, there is about 1 position that was not expended. And in the budget process last year, Dr. Manville and I worked together to build in some cushion in the paraprofessional line. It's very common that we are required to hire an additional paraprofessional as the year goes by. And that has been a practice that has been in existence for many years. Most of the time you don't see a balance because most of the time we
hire somebody.
Hiring. Under, what other comments?
Custodial and special education.
Surely. Custodial overtime is way down this year. It's been a very difficult year. The overtime budget it's been a fixed number for many, many years. We've been very careful in managing it. Oftentimes, people wonder why is there even an overtime budget in custodial. The reason you have to have some is not just for things like snow, but if someone goes out on an injury, we don't have another person to plug in. The number of custodians per building is fixed, and you only have 1 custodian in every building during the day. So from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., there's only 1 custodian, even in the high school. So if that custodian is out for any reason, you really do have to fill in. You can't have plenty of building. So that is kind of a roundabout way of explaining why there has to be overtime. We haven't had that many issues in custodial attendance this year, so you have some overtime. The other one was special education transportation. We can probably reduce in fact, we will be reducing this special ed transportation budget need in future years. This is a throwback to when remember there was a transition, we went to town meeting, I think it was 3 years ago. Town meeting supported our request and we bought 3 vans. And those 3 vans are used to transport students, not only here within North Reading for those who are not able to be accommodated by yellow buses, but preschool children and some children to private entities. So we have taken over an increasingly large portion of our transportation needs. And what we did was, when we first identified this need, special ed transportation has historically been provided by custodians. But when we made this change, we negotiated with the custodians and said, you know, we don't want to continue that. We're going to hire a new class of employees to provide special ed transportation. And that new class of employees is has much lower salary. So we've been carrying custodial wage rates to support special ed transportation, and really no longer need to do that. The only time that we are using custodial wage rates for these 3 vans I spoke of is when one of those 3 individuals is out. We have about 5 or 6 custodians who are licensed in 7D, which is a special licensure that you have to transport students. So we do bring them in from time to time to cover a shift, but that's I don't know if that's a quick or a long explanation.
I mean, when we went to those meetings 3 years ago, one of the commitments we made was that our budget would start to go down in this area and it would be a cost savings. And I think we've seen that over the years. So.
Yes, when you look at, it's hard to see it because you're looking at the salary page, but if you were to trace the transportation expenses on the previous page over several years, you'd see a substantial reduction in contracted transportation. Having said that, managing sometimes this is a fairly major responsibility of the PPS office. They're literally managing transportation for 3 employees. So when one person's out, you're struggling to replace, you can't not pick up. So when you bring it in-house, you have a lot more management responsibilities, but I think we felt collectively that it was worth it because of the savings.
Thank you, Colin. Any other questions now?
Actually, I just wanted to make a comment. Many of you probably saw the Senate budget has recommended a reduction in circuit breaker for next year. I think a $30 million reduction. And I actually went back and forth with Carl today. We really don't have any indication yet as to how specifically that would impact us. It would obviously have a negative impact on our budget because I think we're counting, what do we count, a 60% reimbursement rate? So we'll have to see how that plays out, and hopefully the Senate version of the budget does not get approved.
Well, and again, I think the budget, the Senate version is supposed to be out. It's actually being published right now. It's out. Yeah.
I received an email today from my professional organization that indicated several amendments have been filed to restore it back to the the House numbers. And those amendments are going to be acted upon Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So there's an encouragement for individuals to contact their senators to vote for these amendments to restore that amount back to the House numbers. So I'll let you know.
And I actually did go to see senators actually last week to talk about this, people outside of the district. I got a very good reception from folks saying that they did want to restore that number, but I don't know how much of that was talk. I know Bruce Tarr is certainly very supportive of our position in restoring that number to the House number, so we'll have to see what the other districts come back with, but I felt it was a good reception.
Thank you.
One more quick thing. For the public's information, if you want to get educated on unfunded mandates such as this, go to the Suburban Coalition, I think it's suburbancoalition.org website, and they have a list of all the unfunded mandates faced by towns and school districts. And it's shocking how many things are imposed upon us by state and federal governments without any money following behind. And that's a big part of the issue when we try to put together our budgets.
All right, thank you, Colin. Bids and donations, we don't have any report at this time. However, we do have subcommittee reports, and we'll start with the policy subcommittee. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Do you have a report on the evaluation subcommittee? Or?
Well, I have a brief report.
Okay.
Do you mind if I give a synopsis of our meeting? That was the plan. I'm going to give a synopsis of what we talked about.
Good, yeah,
Okay,
cool.
awesome, okay. So the evaluation subcommittee, as you know, has been really, really busy, and Cliff and I have retained membership on the committee, which I think is great. We are in the process of working through 2 evaluation processes, one of which we have just completed. I'd like to thank the school committee for completing the MASC, that's the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, self-assessment form. What we did in our meeting was to look at a composite of that tool based on all of the ratings given by committee members. Committee members were allowed to give a numerical assignment to a broad number of categories, ranging from 1, which is underdeveloped, through developing, well-developed, and embedded and sustainable. Those are the 4 categories. So we went through this exercise. I think we were a bit surprised, at least I was a little bit surprised at how many categories I thought weren't relevant to our district, and so I think that feedback will be necessary to give to Mask about the process, because we're one of the first districts to use this instrument. But the committee decided that we would share a couple of highlights of what we had found, and I think later in the summer, and I would suggest earlier rather than later, one of our workshop sessions, we'll actually look at the composite scores and to talk about why we differ on some of the domains, as well as why we feel like either we're high performing or have room for improvement in certain areas. So some of the high points were that we felt as a committee, that we have a very strong grasp of governance and policy relating to Mass General Law, our local governance. We have a strong meeting process. There's a strong sense of collegiality. But again, this is a self-assessment, so this is what we think of ourselves and how we work. We favor how we work together as a group, and our communication with the superintendent and central office in general, and our ability to fill posts within central office as well. So I think we're very good from a process standpoint. We all are in agreement on that. Further, we gave ourselves sort of a well-developed, sustainable, or embedded in the community marks for financial and asset management. And in all 4s, which means completely embedded and sustainable, we're hiring Carl. That's actually one domain, is to hire a business to man.
Ironically, none of us were here when Kyle was
Yeah. So,
We'll take credit for it.
kudos for the school committee.
But we kept it.
We did. But I think there were a couple other categories. The use of data to support decision-making was rated very highly by the committee, as was some categories of student support, providing infrastructure for support to be given both in terms of achievement and in development of the child through the entire educational process. So those were sort of the high points. There were a couple areas for improvement, and one interesting thing that we noticed as a committee is that everything we rated ourselves low on, relatively low, were things we couldn't control. Budget, climate, the times, there were a couple other areas. So for example, human resources was a really big one. We don't actually have a human resources director. So there's several categories where we couldn't really rate ourselves favorably, because we simply don't have human resources, i.e. Kathy, who is our human resources director pretty much all the time, or Carl. So there were areas like that. We also suggested some improvement in our own professional development of school committee members, so we could actually find more ways of enriching our own knowledge about school committee process, policies, and advocacy in particular. So that was something that we identified, and I think we'll talk a lot more about in our workshop. So yes, workshop in the summer.
Karen, did you find that we were fairly consistent with most of the major?
We were actually. I want to say that where there was variability, it was mostly myself and Mike, who were different. And
Well, that's understandable.
No, because that is the difference with newer members who,
Yeah.
I think that's completely understandable. Makes
Yeah, and there
sense.
were a lot of
And that's
ones I
meaningful, too.
skipped because I just was like, I don't know the
Right.
answer to this question. And I think there were some like that. There were also ones that were not applicable to our district. There are some districts that have their criteria on low performance and how you assess that.
Right.
We're simply not in that category, and so there was a lot of skips or not applicable. So I think that feedback will be important to MASC. And I also think it